Hey there, Waylon Korkow with FIBT. Just hopping on a quick call here with Beth Meyer of Meyer Team Real Estate with 605. Wanted to kind of come at you today and be a little bit different. And I know that Beth gets a lot of different questions from people that want to sell their house. And I think when we're looking for the right realtor, it's just hard to find or know what we should be asking or maybe what that realtor provides. So I thought it'd be great to have Beth on this call, be able to kind of navigate some of those questions. So I basically looked up some top 5 questions that maybe people should be asking their realtor as you're out there interviewing realtors, figuring out who the best person is for you to use and who's the right fit. So I'll start off, Beth. If you just want to introduce yourself, kind of your experience, and then I will just kind of create this as an interview kind of format.
Sure. I'm Beth Meyer at 605 Real Estate here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I have been a licensed realtor for the past 9 years in the business. I have a small team that works with me and love working with buyers and sellers.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that. Okay, so I'm going to fire away, and I haven't prepared you on any of these, so good luck to you. I feel like this is like Family Feud or something. So number one question that I have is, what is your experience and track record in selling a home?
Sure. So obviously with my team and the way I do my business is I do actually track my numbers. I've had one listing in 9 years expire where I lost the listing and they listed with somebody else. But on average, my days on market is just basically kind of where our average is for the Sioux Empire, which right now sits about 60 to 70 days on market. Sometimes that can seem like a lot, but really that's from the time you list the home, the amount of time it takes to get that offer, plus all the time it takes to get the closing day. And even once you get your offer accepted, you, Waylon, as a lender, it's going to take 30 to 45 days on average to get your job done from the finance side of things.
Okay, sounds great. Second question that I have for you is, what is your marketing plan to sell my home if I list with you?
Sure. So I have basically a sold with Meyer total package, and it starts with a visit face-to-face with a seller, finding out what their most important things are. Every seller ideally wants the most amount of money in the quickest amount of time with the least amount of pain. And that's my goal, to try to do all of those things. But sometimes it's maybe a seller that runs a daycare. And so, yeah, most amount of money is great, but really what's most important to that person is ease. Because how are they going to get 10 little daycare kids out of the house every time that there's a showing? So it starts with a meeting with the seller, establishing their most important thing. Then it's a tour around the house to figure out what the floor plan's like, the specs of the house, and then most importantly, what the seller has done recently or since they've owned the home in terms of features and updates. And it requires me to go back to my office and spend several hours doing a market analysis to really figure out what has sold that's comparable to your home, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, and where that value falls. That takes several hours, and I'll look also at the competition of what's our competition if we list in the next couple weeks. Who are we up against, and how does that look compared to your home? And then I'll look at things like expired, because maybe that seller will say to me, well, the house down the street was listed at $560,000. Well, that's great, but did it sell for that? Did it expire and completely go off market and they never even got it sold? It's going to make a big difference in convincing you, like, well, should you be priced close to that house or not? And then what I really find most important, and in all honesty, not every listing agent does, is then I'll provide a net sheet for you, because from the financial aspect of things, money matters. And if you don't get a net sheet from your listing agent showing you what you would list at, minus all of your commissions, fees, prorated property taxes, you're supposed to sell your house. So I'll provide a net sheet. From there, the clients will decide if they think I'm a good fit, and I'll kind of decide the same thing. Do I think that I know your market well, I know your home well, and do you think that we can serve in a relationship together where we can kind of have the ultimate goal of getting your home sold? If that happens, then my marketing with a professional photographer, a stager, all of those things come into play, on top of getting it on the MLS and the internet from there. And then, of course, everybody thinks that after you list a home, that's the job, is you're just done and you put your feet up and you wait for the offer to come. But with my business, it requires phone calls, the top producers in our MLS, letting them know about the house, It's broker opens, it's open houses to let consumers come in. It's providing feedback to my sellers every time we have an open house. And then we get an offer and my job still doesn't end because it's negotiations and helping advocate for the best deal for my seller. And that's not always price. There are a lot of other terms that can come into the perfect contract. And that's why you need a professional on your side helping you advocate for that, then gets you through inspections and appraisal and ultimately closing day. So that's kind of in a sense of like my total package of what I offer to a seller when they meet with me.
And that's just a snippet, right? I mean, that's off the cuff, which is crazy. It sounds like it was prepared, but I literally did not lead you into that. So obviously you've been asked that question many times before.
Yeah.
Great answer. And I will say from a lending standpoint, the net sheet is huge because that helps my buyers know what they have to work with as far as what they look at with down payment, what they look at with maybe restructuring some debt as they move into a different house, that type of thing. So there's a lot of options, but it doesn't work without knowing what they're going to end up netting. And so we want to have a good idea. One of the things that you actually answered was actually part of my next question, which is what's the estimated value of my home and how do you arrive at that figure? I don't know if you want to elaborate on that a little bit. You mentioned doing a CMA, a cost market analysis, and kind of looking at the market. Anything else that you really want to see on that subject?
Yeah, it's really, for me, it's past sales, because that is where we know the true value of what closed, what a consumer or buyer thought that home was worth, because they ultimately paid for it. And then again, like I said, it's your competition, because if I'm going to go up on the market with your home, I want to know if they're going to see your house, what other houses are they going to look at? How are you similar and how are you priced compared to them? And then, like I said, the third thing would be looking at expireds, because again, every seller wants the most for their home, but we can't use expired numbers as our value because those never sold. That's almost the best indication that they weren't worth that value. But I look at more than just one or two homes. I look at all three of those categories and then try to get 4 to 5 different comparable homes so that the seller can truly understand I'm not picking a price out of thin air, but I did my due diligence and my research.
Sounds great. Thanks, Beth. I got 2 last questions here. I'll try to make them a little bit quicker here so we can wrap up here in the next minute and a half or so. The 4th question that I have for you is, what are the costs associated with selling my home?
Sure. So there are several costs, and I guess it depends on your state probably too, but in South Dakota, we pay our property taxes in arrears, which means 1 year behind. And so when a seller goes to sell their house, they have to get caught on the property taxes so that when the buyer comes into the home, they're not stuck with property taxes when they never lived there. And so letting the seller know what that looks like. And a lot of times they'll say, well, I pay my property taxes every time I get the statement. And yes, you do, but it's always for the year prior. So that's one thing. Second things are like title fees and closing fees, which your mortgage lender, somebody like Waylon, is going to give you a much better idea of estimates on those fees. And then there's things like realtor commissions. And realtor commissions are negotiable. I have a fee that I attach for what the service I provide costs a seller. Part of that is to cover listing of their home, staging, marketing, and other parts of it is that I will actually share a portion of my fee to a buyer's agent for bringing in a buyer. And that's kind of a general, I guess, snippet of the types of fees you could anticipate paying at this.
Perfect. And all of that's in that sheet there. So
correct.
Last question I have, if you can answer in 15 seconds or less, what is the strategy for negotiating offers?
Oh gosh, I will say in 15 seconds or less, it's knowing the current market, which means you need to have a full-time real estate agent in your corner because they are out there buying and selling on a daily basis. They know what to expect in what price point your home is in. And that knowledge helps make them the best negotiator in terms of what to expect when you're getting an offer.
Awesome. Well, it's been great talking to you, Beth. If they can reach out to you, I'll make sure to include your email and phone number on this and just appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.